creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Scientists may have just discovered what Stonehenge actually is. Come on then, hit me. Stonehenge, one of the wonders, is one of the biggest, most mysterious things ever. What actually is it? Doesn't make any sense. Who built it? How did it get there? How old is it? Now, what we do know is that the blue stones of Stonehenge were quarried around 140 miles away in Wales. In its simplest form, the question always before was, how did those rocks get from there to the site? And did glaciers actually play a part in transporting these stones? Because they could have basically slid down like a water slide. Because this would have been possible, obviously, during the Ice Age, it would make sense that those stones then would be there. Because surely there's no way humans carried these giant stones over 200 miles, some even further than that. And I mean, Stonehenge is over 5,000 years old. That's when it's believed to have been built. And if you don't know much about it, well, life was pretty different back then. Like, we didn't really have much, so it would have been quite hard. Or did we? So detailed mineral analysis and geological fingerprinting has been conducted, showing that the rocks actually match that of Pembrokeshire, not Glacier erratics. And there is no sign of glacial transport, so they didn't slide on the slide from the glacier. Which means now we pretty much have concrete evidence. These things weren't moved by nature and then plopped up. They were physically moved by humans and put into place for one reason or another, and potentially even further away than we thought. Now, of course, this would be very easy to do nowadays. You just pick up the stone and plop it down with a crane. But this is a massive prehistoric engineering feat. Like 5,000 years ago, that's completely different. But also raises the question of, did we have more technology back then that we don't know about? Look at the pyramids as well. Same issue. But it is very interesting to know finally why but it is interesting that we do have confirmation now they weren't moved accidentally and were placed there. Now the question is why.
So, what actually is it?
Weird Girl Travel Destinations episode 2. And pack your bags, baby, because we're going on the weirdest road trip you can imagine. We're going to Ireland to hunt for these. And I'm saying hunt because there's about 100 of them hidden across the country. These are called Fianna crafted in the 11th century. Stone carvings of naked women. They're missing having their legs spread and actually deliberately displaying their open. They're embedded into walls of churches and castles across Ireland. The best part is that nobody fully agrees on what they mean. Warnings against lust, fertility symbols, folk deities connected to birth and death and cycles of the earth. So here's your Weird Girl Ireland road trip. 2 days starting in Dublin. So first up is the National Museum of Ireland. Entry is free and there's 2 Sheilas there. It's the only place that you can get one face to face before you venture out to the wild hunting for them yourself. Then you drive 90 minutes to Esker Castle. There are no signs, no path. You just have to find her yourself. But once you do, she's beautiful. And she's been there since the Middle Ages, so put some respect in her name. Then you drive an hour and a half south to Feathered, one of the most intact medieval walled towns in Ireland. There's 3 Sheilas there and very good pub food as well. So look for the Sheilas and then sleep there. Day 2, you do the beautiful drive to Westcourt and at this castle, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. You can find the Sheila on the outer wall right above the door, so she should be pretty easy to find. I've been collecting Weird Girl destinations like this for years, so comment down below weird and I'll send you a full updated list. By the way, instead of saving this video for later, send it to the Albo app and it will automatically pin all the places mentioned to a map.
It is weird.
3 underrated movies about mermaids that you probably haven't seen. First up, The Lure. This is a Polish horror musical. You heard me. 2 mermaid sisters wash up in 1980s Warsaw and become nightclub singers. One falls in love with a human and the other wants to eat him. It's gory, glamorous, and I actually just can't explain it. You just have to watch it yourself. Next, Blew My Mind. This is a Swiss indie film where a teenage girl starts transforming into a mermaid, and the film kind of uses that as a metaphor for losing control of your own body. This one is haunting, but somehow beautiful, and it'll definitely stay with you. And then we have Ondine. Colin Farrell pulls a woman out of the sea in Ireland, and she
I think I've seen that one.
might just be a Selkie from Irish folklore. No jump scares, no CGI tales. It's a quiet and eerie film that feels like a fairy tale whispered in the depths of night.
There's a bloody, brutal, amazing fairy tale from Nigeria about sisters kicking ass and taking names, and it involves this thing. My God. It's called Dodo the Robber and the Magic Door, and this is Dodo. It's a huge, monstrous, somewhat humanoid creature going by these various names, and it's called the Swallower of Men because that's what it does. It eats people. But this story starts with a girl he doesn't eat. One day, Dodo caught a certain woman, brought her to his home, and married her, and he made her live with him there. Not sure if it would have been better to be eaten. But luckily, our girl has a sister, and when her sister disappears, she goes looking for her. To find her, she uses a plant called a creeping gourd, a creeping vine that also bears fruit, a gourd. The footnote about them in the story I read this from said that sometimes they can be used as water bottles. If they have a long neck, they can be cut into and used as like a ladle and spoon. And direct quote, if not cut in two, it has a pierced hole at each end that is used as an enema, with the operator blowing down the hole in the large end and the patient lying on their stomach. The more you know. But our girl magically uses this creeping gourd to follow its creeping vine, saying, go after my sister. And she follows the vines until she finds her. Her sister's like, how'd you find me? She's like, I planted a creeping gourd to find you. Let's go. The captive sister is like, hold on, I think he's coming back. So she hides her sister under her mattress, and then Dodo comes in and says, ooh, I smell a person. The captive girl is such a badass. She coolly says, it's me you smell. Have you become tired of me that you want to kill me now and live all alone? Dodo was silenced, and so the next morning he goes out to eat more people. Our girl gets out her sister, and the captive sister, we're now told her name is Ambashira, spits on the floor before they leave. And so after they go, the spit talks to Dodo and tricks him into thinking she's still there. He doesn't realize the trick until it's too late, and he runs after her, and she and her sister have already crossed the river. He can't, so he goes back home. But it's not over. They then come across a man on their way home who says, hey, I'm a robber. I'm gonna go rob Dodo. They're like, cool, we'll help you. There's some magic words you have to say to open the door, and then magic words you need to say to close the door. The robber's like, thanks. So he heads to Dodo's house. He says the magic words to get in, but then he closes the door, and then he can't remember the magic words to get out, only the magic words to keep it closed. So he's stuck inside, and the two women from wherever they are somehow know this, and they sing, oh, mad robber, we gave you the chance to steal, but we did not give you forgetfulness. That's on you. And then they went home, and Dodo came home, caught the robber, killed him, stuck his body on a spit, and as soon as the flesh was cooked, ate him. The end. Moral of the story, don't push your luck, don't mess with two determined women, especially sisters, and don't mess with Dodo.
Gilgamesh is dying. The Lord of Kolaba has laid down, never to rise again. Gilgamesh's final moments are recorded in one of the 5 ancient Sumerian poems, which was the precursor to the great Epic of Gilgamesh. Unable to stand, eat, or drink, the mighty king lay helpless, lamenting his faded strength. In his feeble state, he communed with the divine. He is granted a vision. Gilgamesh stands in the assembly of the great gods. They acknowledged his unparalleled deeds. He had travelled every road, built magnificent temples, and even reached Ziud-Zudra, the immortal survivor of the Great Flood. Enki, the god of wisdom, addresses Enlil, the king of the gods. Enki reminded the assembly that when Enlil sent the Great Flood to destroy humanity, it was Enki who chose to save Ziud-Zudra and preserve the seed of mankind. And whilst Ziud-Zudra was granted eternal life, Enki was made to swear an oath that never again would a mortal receive such an eternal gift. Yet Enki pleaded for a compromise. Gilgamesh was the son of Ninsun, the goddess. Could the son of a goddess not be made an exception? The divine decree was absolute. Gilgamesh was told, Gilgamesh namzu namlugalshe mute, tildalishe numunde. To honour him, the gods proposed a different destiny. Gilgamesh would become a supreme judge among the Anunnaki gods in the underworld. There he would render verdicts among deities like Ningishida and Dumuzid. Though Gilgamesh despaired, the gods told him not to weep. They assured him, though the darkest days of humanity did await him, a profound reunion also awaited him. In the underworld, he would be reunited with his family, his ancestors, and of course his beloved companion, Enkidu. Accepting his fate, Gilgamesh orders the city of Uruk to prepare for his death. Labourers began to divert the mighty Euphrates River. Within 10 days, the waters had receded enough to expose the riverbed, allowing workers to construct a massive stone tomb which was designed to remain hidden forever. Exquisite gifts for the gods of the netherworld were prepared, and when Gilgamesh was ready, he would enter his final resting place. He would be accompanied in his tomb by his wife, his children, his servants, and of course his most prized possessions. Now this section of the poem strikes an eerie resemblance to the genuine royal tombs of Ur, where the great death pits were discovered. When Gilgamesh took his last breath, the tomb was sealed. The Euphrates was released back to its natural course. burying Gilgamesh and his retinue beneath a permanent torrent of water. Gilgamesh's legacy would endure. Worshipped as a divine being of the underworld, and no doubt many statues permeated the great magnificent temples of Sumer. The ancient poem even makes reference to a Festival of Lights, which is an annual festival where Gilgamesh is still remembered. This took place during the 5th month of the Babylonian year and was commemorated by the lighting of torches and wrestling and shows of strength.
This is a scary unsolved case of the two 17-year-old boys that disappeared without a trace on Halloween night in 2001. Their names are Matthew Nichols and Jordan Raymer. They were reported missing after failing to come home that same night and then not showing up to school the next morning. What's creepy is that they documented their final hours. A VHS camcorder belonging to the boys was found in the middle of the woods in a cabin. Both of the boys' fingerprints were on it, but there was no sign that they had actually been in the cabin. Their final moments show them entering the forests of northern Vancouver Island. Now, I should add that Vancouver Island has the highest number of missing persons per capita in Canada. This is nearly twice the national average. People are vanishing at an alarming rate on this island, and no one knows why. Also, since 2007, more than 25 human feet have washed up on shore. What is going on there? Matthew's sister, Tara Nichols, is determined to find the truth. In her new documentary, she reopens her brother's missing persons case and tries to get down to the bottom of it. Her documentary, Hunting Matthew Nichols, is in theaters on April 10th, and you're going to want to get tickets now. It is absolutely crazy. I'm also leaving her website in the description. Check it out because you can help solve the case too. Together, let's find out what happened to Matthew and Jordan and bring them justice.
I hope they're okay though, or maybe they ran away to be gay together.
People are not scared enough of the ocean, and I'm here to fix that. Welcome back to another episode of Why I Stay on Land, where I give you some self-inflicted thalassophobia right before bed. If you are new to this channel, you may not know that I am Caribbean. I am Haitian specifically. I believe that sirens exist. No one can tell me otherwise. No one can make me feel crazy for that. I genuinely want you to look at the ocean and you tell me how in the world, if only 5% of it is explored, you know what the heck is going out there. Now that we've gotten rid of all the buzzkills, girl, we need to talk about this. If you are Haitian, you most likely know somebody who knows someone who has a siren story. And I tell you, there are so many instances where people will say that their loved one got taken by a siren and comes back years. I'm talking about some people 20, 30 years later, and they look the freaking same. They look like they haven't aged a day. I'm talking Damon and Stefan Salvatore type stuff, okay? So something got me thinking, right? And y'all know that I love to hyperfixate on random things in the middle of the night. It's almost midnight. The siren story folklore of Haiti is La Sirene. In Dominican Republic is La Sirena. So it's kind of like the same thing, and you guys already know they're literally right next to each other. And a lot of the times encounters with La Sirene or La Sirena is going in and coming back out, or people getting taken because they are wearing like shiny jewelry, and La Sirene thinks that it's an offering to her. I personally think that these are demonic creatures. I think that they are the women that procreated with the fallen angels in the days of Noah that were cursed to the sea to become sirens. Now I'm kind of figuring out that there's so much more to this, and my brain hurts. Apparently, I was thinking back to Haitian independence. Now, in no way am I saying the only reason why Haiti was the first independent. No, I'm not saying that the reason why is because they were doing voodoo and all this stuff. What I am saying is this is a very interesting thing that I just learned today. Apparently in 1791, enslaved African leaders that were in Haiti at that time, specifically Dutty Boukman and Cecile Fatiman. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but they swear an oath to fight for freedom, right? Now, this isn't documented, but this is word of mouth that has stayed the same for hundreds of years. Apparently, they made some kind of deal with Agwe and La Sirene all the way back then to give them favor in the war, in the fight for independence. Mind you, like I said, this is only like a small part of the people that fought for independence. Even believe that Agwe would stay at like the borders where they were being invaded and fight people off, or like keep them off. It's literally so much. It is insane. I would have to do a part 2. Like, this to say, like, you cannot tell me all the way back then these things existed and what all of a sudden, like, oh, it's just a myth. Sirens are a myth now. There is a marine kingdom. No one can tell me otherwise, okay? As always, make sure you like and follow. Comment down below if you guys want this part 2.
There are more mummies found in America in this time frame by a gigantic margin than there are in Europe or Egypt. In fact, the Smithsonian was caught stealing mummies from Colorado and shipping them to Europe. And the deeper you go, the crazier the things they find. 17 miles northeast of Manchester is a prehistoric cavern in which wonderful discoveries have lately been made. They're on a farmer's land in Ohio. The ground shapes downward into this weird depression in his land. What they find when they remove the rocks covering the bottom of this depression is a tunnel into a underground tomb. It contains 9 chambers or rooms. They find a well in one of these chambers, and 45 feet from the top of that well, they found the entrance to a second cavern, which proved to be the family tomb of a race of gigantic men.
Yeah, it's insane. Even a single human statue, if you asked anybody on the street, has that ever been found in America, they'd probably say no.
This is one of, sadly, buildings that have went complete disrepair. Midway Theater in Rockford, Illinois. I had the privilege of going here a couple times for plays in grade school. It's absolutely beautiful on the inside.
It looks haunted.
Get that bell tower. Perhaps a great place for a mooring station. Just look at that front. Absolutely beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Rockford has a lot of remnants of the old world. A lot of it has fallen in complete disrepair. In this case, with the Midway, completely dilapidated now.
Back in the day.
But what it was in its prime, even in the 90s, it was still beautiful. It's one of a few beautiful, ornate theaters in Rockford. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Till next time.
He said his grandpa fought with the devil in Mexico. And if you're Mexican, I'm sure that you've heard this story from your grandparents many times. According to his grandpa, this happened in the late 1970s, where his grandpa was leaving a party in Jalisco late at night. He was riding his horse back home at 2 in the morning when he noticed something in the distance. It was a person that was completely standing still. However, his boots were very polished, he was wearing jewelry, he looked like a very wealthy person. The grandpa thought that maybe it was a man that needed help. However, his horse didn't want to approach the man. It kept trying to go back, and if you know Mexican horses, they were trained to keep moving forward. The mysterious man with the cowboy outfit approached the grandpa, and he told him that he lived a very sinful life, and that tonight he came for his soul. The man's eyes were completely black, just black and shiny, and he challenged the man to get off of his horse and fight like a man. As soon as his boots touched the ground, the air around him went completely freezing, and the dogs were barking, the horse was making noises, and the night went on. The fight lasted a few minutes because the man was supposedly very strong, and not human strong, it was like a different type of strength. And before passing out, he remembered his mother telling him, if the devil ever touches you, pray. As the mysterious man was holding him down, he kept praying in his head over and over again, and again he passed out. When he woke up, it was just him and his horse. Every time in family reunions, he tells his grandchildren this story multiple times.
Did I really have to go all the way to eastern Turkey, near the border with Syria, just to see this museum? The answer is a resounding yes. After visiting Bola Regia in Tunisia last year and seeing underground Roman houses with 2,000-year-old mosaics, I became fascinated by them. So when I heard Turkey was home to one of the world's greatest mosaic museums, I had to visit Gaziantep, home to the Zeugma Mosaic Museum. But to understand this museum, you first have to understand Zeugma.
This is ancient Greece.
2,000 years ago, Zeugma was a wealthy Roman city on the Euphrates River. Its residents decorated their homes with incredible mosaics, showing myths, animals, and scenes from daily life. But in the late 1990s, a dam project threatened to flood much of the ancient city. Archaeologists raced against time, carefully removing the entire mosaic floors before the waters arrived. Many of those rescued masterpieces are now displayed inside the museum, including the famous Gypsy Girl mosaic, whose striking eyes have become one of Turkey's most recognizable archaeological treasures. That is why traveling all the way to Gaziantep is absolutely worth it.
Holidays.
Why did y'all not tell me that there's something else to hyperfixate on at 12 a.m.? Guys, I saw this video and it was like, someone is lost down here, by the way. I'm like, where is this? And then they're like, oh, I'm talking like the video was speaking to me. But the video said it was the Amazon rainforest. And I'm like, oh my gosh, deep dive alert. The things I have freaking found, oh my gosh. In 1925, this guy, Percy Fawcett, was a British explorer that was obsessed with finding a lost civilization. He was convinced that Z was out there and he was going to find it. He decides to take his son and his son's friend deep into the Brazilian Amazon, and they completely vanish. No bodies were ever found. Mind you, they sent out hundreds and hundreds of search parties, no bodies. Here's the thing. Different indigenous tribes kept giving like different types of stories. Same indigenous tribes were terrified of the area that he and his son's friend disappeared near the Xingu River. A lot of people say that, mind you, in the Amazon, there are actually tribes that have been completely untouched by today's civilization. So they're still living off the land, things like that. Kind of like how you hear about the Pharaoh people in Appalachian Mountains, things like that. Now, they could very well just be chill people like peace and love. Or there's lore that Percy, that was his name, right? Why am I mind blank? But Percy and his son's friend were taken by one of those tribes over there. But low key, like when people say that, I'm like, what if they're just tribes out there just chilling and people are demonizing them and calling them like savages and stuff? That sounds oddly familiar. So I don't know if I want to subscribe to that. I'm gonna just say something got him, like a giant snake or something. Shoot, there is so much lore behind this place. Apparently El Dorado is there. Like, you know, El Dorado, like that movie, like there's like lost civilizations that people like get absolutely obsessed with, kind of like Percy Fawcett. In the 1900s, there was like a bunch of groups of missionaries and travelers that got lost in the green hell. I'm talking about dozens and dozens of people. Boop, gone. No one knows where they are. But the thing is, there's so many different kinds of like animals and stuff in the rainforest that they genuinely could have just been taken by the elements or something more sinister. I mean, let me pull the picture up again. Guys, like, what is in there? We've been talking about the ocean. What's in the rainforest? Something ain't right, y'all. Something ain't right. Anyways, y'all, make sure you like and follow. Comment down below if you want a part 2, or if you guys want me to just keep deep diving into the ocean. Let me know. Your wish is my command.
Maybe the tribe saw them and was like, not today, colonizer.
What do you think is the single deadliest, most dangerous job in the world?
Deadliest catch. Crab fishing is still up there. Commercial fishing, certainly. Logging, the whole confined space world. We did 2 specials on dirty jobs over the years called Really Tight Spaces. I remember shooting a buoy tube with the Coast Guard. They clean them and refurbish them before they put them back in, but there's a tube in the middle. It's hollow. It's about the size of your shoulders. You shimmy up there and scrape the crap out. And I did that with a GoPro because a cameraman couldn't get a camera up there. There were 350 jobs. There's one that I would never do again. Opal mining in the Australian outback. And the way you look for opals is you take a Caldwell bit and you start digging these shafts about 60 feet deep, and they lower you into this hole. You got your flashlight, you got your little miner helmet, and you're looking around, and you're in a grave, dude. What you're looking for are trace elements of sandstone. They run in veins. In between that vein, oftentimes is opal. Imagine being like 3 or 4 millimeters tall in the bottom of a liter Coke bottle and just looking up. It's 60 feet.
Okay, I have a major update on the 16 children who were found in that Ohio home. And honestly, this story keeps getting darker. First of all 4 adults, the children's mother, the father, the grandmother, and the grandfather, have now pled guilty. The judge set their bond at $300,000 each, and they're each facing 16 felony counts of child endangerment, and 1 for every child. Now, allegedly, she had more than 20 kids, so the question is, where are those children? Okay? Now, the children are no longer in that home. They're now in temporary custody of Ohio children welfare officials, and authorities are saying they're receiving medical care, mental health care, and protection while the investigation continues. 7 children were hospitalized when they were rescued, including 2 who had to be airlifted, and they're saying if they didn't get those children that day, it was possible that it would have been bodies. Now, here's the other detail that I didn't know at first. Authorities confirmed they weren't even looking for the 16 children. They were serving a search warrant as part of an unrelated investigation when they walked into what Ohio Attorney General calls one of the worst child abuse scenes he has ever witnessed. Now, also, some of the officers that were there, they've been needing therapy, like to see someone because it was that bad. Now, investigators say the children have reportedly spent years largely confined to a 12 by 12 foot room, surrounded by human waste and filth. Some reportedly couldn't even speak, and the oldest child, who's 18, has developmental delays and reportedly couldn't even write her own name. Now, officials are also saying the children were never enrolled in school and appeared to be hidden from the outside world. The mother, Elizabeth Snyder, is 33 years old. The oldest child is 18.
You know, the mother, if she was underage, she's also a victim from the beginning.
And that means she was around 15 years old when she became a mother. And according to the reporting, she
There you
married Gary
go.
Snyder Jr. when she was 15 years old, after reportedly being in a relationship with him
She was a victim.
while she was around 13 years old. Okay? He was 18. Those reports have led to many people asking whether she may also be a victim later on in her life or not. Also saying that people that seen her at the stores, she was never allowed to talk to anyone. Now, let me make this very clear. That doesn't erase the charges that she's facing today. If the prosecution proves that those allegations are true, then those children do deserve protection no matter what happened. But I also think it's fair to ask, is this tragedy spans more than one generation? Did the cycle start with those 16 kids, or did it start years before with adults now accused? Those are two different questions, and investigators are still working on the answers because they're saying that this is one of the worst cases, or the worst, okay? And one thing we do know is this: 16 children are finally out of that house, which I think is very important. They're safe, or what we believe to be safe, because I don't want this to be another Turpin kid story, because they were even abused after, okay? Now they're getting medical treatment, and hopefully for the first time in a long time, they're getting a chance to simply just be children. Now I'm going to keep following this case because I have a feeling we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot more to learn about this case and what really happened inside that home. But I would love for you guys to drop your comments down below. Let me know if you guys think this is going to get worse, or you think we've reached the worst of the worst. And I'm also wondering if there was NS involved in this, because are all of the children by the mom? Did the 18-year-old have some of the children? There's so many questions in my mind. Do you have those questions too?
Somebody submitted a spooky story saying that every woman in her family is said to belong to the water. And when she turned 19, mermaid spirits gave her her first assignment: destroy a marriage. I'm back with another spooky story, and we're gonna call the person who submitted the story Lucy. Now, Lucy says she's never told anyone this story because it does sound unbelievable. However, the women in her family does have ties to the water. So her grandmother used to say that some bloodlines are claimed by the river. Her grandmother told her that long before she was born, one of their ancestors nearly drowned as a little girl. She disappeared underneath the water for hours. When she was found, she was alive, sitting calmly on the riverbank with a cowrie shell in her hand. And from that day on, she changed, and Loki, so did the entire bloodline. So she became unnaturally beautiful. Men obsessed over her, women feared her, and she said the spirits of the water had chosen the
Ariana Grande.
women in their family to carry out their work on Earth. Child, Lucy, listening to this, thought that it was folklore until she turned 19. That was the year that she started dreaming about a woman with waist-length hair sitting on a rock in the middle of the ocean. Her skin shimmered and her voice was soft and very hypnotic. The woman told Lucy, "You are one of mine." And after that, strange things began happening. Married men would become obsessed with Lucy for no reason. She didn't even have to flirt. They would leave their wives, spend money that they didn't have on her to make her happy, and ruin their homes trying to please Lucy. So at first she thought it was a coincidence. Then her grandmother sat her down. She told them that their purpose was not random. She told them that the water spirits blessed them with beauty, favor, and protection. But in return, they are given assignments. So some women in the family are sent to bring wealth, some are sent to heal, and some, like Lucy, are sent to test relationships. Like, excuse me? She explained that if a marriage is weak, then she is drawn onto the husband's path. Her presence exposes what was already broken. If he betrays his vows, the union will collapse. Lucy asked if that made her evil, but her grandmother shook her head and said no. She says the spirits do not force anyone to sin. They reveal what is hidden. And that explanation comforted her for years. But later, as she got older, she began questioning everything. Because the dreams became more intense, the mermaid woman would appear and whisper names to her, specific men. Days later, those exact men would enter her life. Get this, y'all.
What?
One was a pastor, one was a businessman, and one was her friend's husband. Every time they pursued her obsessively, their marriages were destroyed every time. This is one of my favorite baking powders. It's the bomb. Anyway, so Lucy tried resisting, but when she ignored the dream, she would wake up soaked in seawater.
Actually, America is marked as Africa. And Africa is named Lemuria. And I know we've been speaking about Egypt being actually in America, and that made me think about maybe there's some anomalies with the map. So in this map, which looks like an ancient map, but I don't know if it's an authentic map. But the fact, yeah, very interesting that America potentially could be the real Africa. We know that the Grand Canyon, there's a lot of signs that is either the real Egypt or part of Egypt. So what are your thoughts about the fact that there could be actually an incorrect naming of the continents?
So that map is from another version of Earth. So we have no idea what the map really looks like, and I'm pretty bad at geography. Like the names were just different in that space.
And on this map, you can see how that what it was Africa now depicted as Lemuria can perfectly fit into that North and South America bit.
What if the most haunted place in England isn't a castle, it's a coastline? Land's End in Cornwall is the very edge of Britain, but according to legend, it didn't used to be the edge at all. Stretching out beyond these cliffs once lay an entire kingdom called Lyonesse, 140 churches, fertile plains, and a great city called Lyons. Then, one night, it was gone, swallowed by the ocean in a single night. But here is where it gets truly eerie. For centuries, fishermen working these waters have reported hearing something beneath the waves. The eerie ringing of church bells underneath the water. Even today, locals call it the Bells of Lyonesse. And it might not just be folklore. Sailors reported snagging windows, doors, and household items in their nets while fishing over what they called the town, the submerged ruins of Lyonesse's highest city. As the legend goes, there was only one person who escaped the flood. A hunter named Trevelyan riding a white horse who only just reached the safety of higher ground at Land's End before the waters engulfed everything behind him. Land's End has always been treacherous for sailors, but not all of the danger came from nature. Cornwall's infamous wreckers would lure ships onto the rocks with false lanterns and then plunder the wreckage. According to legend, their punishment follows them beyond death. Those who died by the sea are said to return to it as phantom crews, sailing ghost ships through the same storms that killed them, a warning to anyone who dares these waters. We of course have to talk a little bit more about the ghost ships. One spooky story tells the tale of a spectral ship said to sail up the beach at Porthcurno, cross the land and then simply disappear. The tale is linked to a local man rumoured to be a pirate, one who always seems to survive the most violent storms at sea. Locals say the ship still sails on nights when no living vessel would dare. Sailors used to say, if you see a ship on the horizon at Land's End and you can't tell if it's coming or going, don't wait to find out.
A pack of wolves in northern Greece is making headlines after being caught on camera doing something conservationists say has never been documented
Oh, this is cute.
before in the country, apparently adopting a stray puppy into their group. The footage recorded by drone by researcher Theodoris Komninos shows the young dog living among the wolves in the mountainous region of Macedonia, where he has been following the pack as part of his doctoral research. Rather than treating the puppy as prey or a rival, the wolves appear to have accepted it into the pack. Nikos Panagiotopoulos, who heads wild animal care at Castoria Environmental Protection Society, says the animals are effectively raising it as one of their own. He explained the pack sort of adopted this little puppy. It's very small, so there's no competition, but what strikes us is that they're passing their own behavior onto it. They bring it food, they carry food to it, they take it to water. According to him, the puppy came from a nearby sheep farm in the area where the wolves live. This is also not the first time this pack is taking in a stray. Last February, they adopted a black puppy, but it did not survive the cold. Panagiotopoulos says concerns about breeding between wolves and dogs are unlikely, pointing to the pack's strict hierarchy. He expects that as a puppy grows, it will eventually leave the group and join other dogs.
Okay, this is going viral on Twitter right now of a clip of a news segment talking about how NASA is able to show us what's going on in these faraway galaxies. And they literally go into a room with two dudes on IMAX who use CGI, and this is what they say, to describe or demonstrate some of the concepts. Just listen to this, man. Absolutely insane.
In a small, bright office, working side by side. Let's see, Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life. What we're doing does have real science underlying it. Robert is
So this is something I think not a ton of people know, is that NASA does use CGI imagery, but only, this is what they say, as scientific tools, educational illustrations, or data composites to depict concepts that cannot be directly photographed. So it's kind of like If I'm telling you there's something behind your house, obviously I know they're saying it's millions and billions and trillions of miles away, so we can't take a picture of it, but we know it's there. Here's what it looks like. It's just a bit of a stretch. Like, it's kind of a hard sell. We're using CGI to show you and demonstrate these concepts and these things that we can't quite take a picture of, but they are definitely there. Okay, dude. But anyways, isn't that interesting? Let me know what your thoughts are about NASA in the comments below and follow for more.
You know, even more interesting when you consider CGI was created by a NASA employee.
28,000 years ago, humans painted the oldest rock art in Australia, and then we forgot about it until 2006. Welcome to episode 43 of Ancient Site Sunday, followed to never miss a weekly adventure. Today, we're going to Nawarla Gabarnmang. People were visiting and living in the rock shelter of Nawarla Gabarnmang as early as 44,000 years ago, with much of the art that you see above me being made in the last 20,000 years. The site was rediscovered in 2006, and when two indigenous Jawoyn elders were asked about it, they remembered visiting the shelter when they were children and gave us its name, which translates to place of hole in the rock. During excavations, archaeologists found a stone axe that is 35,500 years old, making it the oldest known of its type in the world. Looking at the art decorating the shelter, you can spot amazing depictions of animals like fish, wallabies, and crocodiles, and even drawings of people and spiritual figures. And it's not just ancient art. Some paintings have been dated to as late as the 1400s, 1600s, and even the 1950s. But this right here, this is the oldest confirmed pictograph in Australia, and it dates to 28,000 years ago. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Nawarla Gabarnmang proves that places can hold a special spot in the culture of a community for tens of thousands of years, but it can be forgotten in less than the span of a lifetime. Which is why oral histories are so important and deserve much more attention in archaeology. Let me know in the comments what ancient site you want to go to next.
She had this bizarre fascination with Jeffrey Dahmer. She was obsessed with him and then went on to commit such a terrible, brutal murder that the media called her Lady Dahmer. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it for you guys. This is a horrific case and definitely not the video that you're going to want to
Jeffrey Dahmer is homosexual, right?
eat during while watching. Taylor Schabusiness, that was her real legal name. Taylor Schabusiness was born Taylor Coronado and was raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin. From the outside, Taylor appeared to have a very normal, happy childhood and family, but throughout this entire case, that proves to not be so true. Sadly, Taylor's mother was an alcoholic, and it was really, really bad. Well, when Taylor was only 11 years old, her father woke up to discover that her mother had died in her sleep from cirrhosis due to her alcoholism. And after her mother's death, Taylor was really just in a downward spiral. Her dad remarried very fast, and Taylor was just very angry. She was rebelling, she was acting out and abusing alcohol and substances. She had a boyfriend in school named Shad Tyrion, who will be very important later in this case. By 19 years old, Taylor was in full-on addiction. She was using the substance M, like Beth with an M. Taylor actually married her dealer, a man named Warren Chabot. And after she was
she's a tweaker.
married and went to change her last name, instead of taking her husband's last name and being Taylor Chabot, she legally changed her name to Taylor Schabusiness. And as you can imagine, this marriage was extremely toxic, and Taylor was just continuing down this downward spiral. Her husband was arrested for dealing and was in jail. Taylor Schabusiness was in a really bad, dark place. She reconnected with her old high school boyfriend, Shad, who was also sadly using M at this time. So Taylor and Shad would use together and hook up. On February 22nd, 2002, Taylor and Shad were out partying and using with friends, and by all accounts, it was a normal, fun night. At some point, just Taylor and Shad went back to where Shad lived. He lived at home with his mom, and they kept using M and hooking up down in the basement. According to Taylor, Shad really liked it when she held him here on his neck while they were hooking up. Shad was wearing a chain, so she got on top of him and was pulling on the chain to restrict his breath until Shad was unconscious. So while Taylor is pulling on this chain that is around his neck, she said that it was really fun and cool to watch Shad's face turn colors. It went red, and then it went purple, and then it went blue.
And then
He stopped breathing. He couldn't move. His first thought was murder. But then no blood, not a drop. The skin just ended there, smooth, like that was always how far it went. Then one word came into his head, rokurokubi. In Japan, yokai are basically the explanation for everything that didn't have one. Strange lights in the mountains, sounds with no source, shadows that moved wrong. Before science, yokai were the answer. Every river, every forest road, every dark mountain pass had something in it that couldn't be explained. And the rokurokubi was one of the most unsettling of all. During the day, a rokurokubi is just a regular person, usually a woman. She goes about her life, talks to her neighbors, does her work. Nothing unusual at all. But at night, when she falls asleep, her neck starts to stretch, slowly at first, then more and more, creeping out from under the blanket. Hunting insects, licking oil from lamps. And when she wakes up in the morning, she doesn't remember any of it. But the worst version is called the nukekubi. With nukekubi, the head doesn't stretch. It fully detaches, lifts off the shoulders, and floats out into the night on its own. And unlike the rokurokubi, which is almost sleepwalking, the nukekubi is completely awake. It hunts deliberately. It picks its targets, and it drinks blood. If you find a rokurokubi's body while its head is gone and move it somewhere else, the head won't be able to reattach when it comes back. It will search, and in its panic, it will fall to the ground 3 times, bounce 3 times, and die. Kaido looked up at the ceiling. There was a window open up there. That's how they left. He thought about what the woodcutter had said. The repentance, the past sins, the warmth, all of it was a setup. Why would anyone living this deep in the mountains go out of his way to bring a stranger home? He realized he was the meal. And when he realized that, the monk left Kaido's eyes. The samurai came back.
You know, in Indonesia, we also have a similar creature called kuyang. In Bali.
But did you know that a dolphin and a human fell in love back in the 1960s? Yeah, during a NASA study of dolphin to human communications, there was a dolphin named Peter and a human named Margaret. Now, Margaret lived inside the facility where this study was being done, so she lived with Peter 24/7. She was around this dolphin. She said that at some point in time during their language experiments, Peter started getting very excited and was very interested in her body. It was going from 6 to midnight often. So she would put him back in the tank with the female dolphins so that he could get his, he could satisfy himself. He didn't like that. He would rage and try to get out of the tank. Okay, get back to Margaret. So Margaret said she would put him back in the tank with her, and he would rub himself on her feet or her legs or her hands. And she said that he was kind of hard to work with and do the language experiments when he was excited like that. So she would just let him satisfy himself so they could get back to their work. This study was fucked up. It took a turn when they started giving LSD to Margaret and the dolphins, so NASA pulled their funding. That's a whole nother story, though. Anyways, when NASA pulled funding from it, they had to shut down the project. So Peter and Margaret were separated. 2 weeks after they were separated, Peter went underwater and opened up his blowhole.
Well, maybe the dolphin eventually committed suicide because he stopped seeing her.
Chased a girl into these waters, and they've called it the most haunted pool in England ever since. And centuries later, a world-famous author vanished without a trace nearby. I'm looking for one piece of folklore, legend, history, or mystery in every county in the UK. And this time, we're in Surrey. And there's actually two stories here. This is the Silent Pool, just beneath the North Downs near Guildford. And it's famous for its perfectly clear turquoise water. According to legend, a woodcutter's daughter once came to bathe alone in these waters. But before she could step in, she heard someone come riding by. It was King John. Yes, that King John. And when he saw her, he started to chase her. Having nowhere else to go to escape him, she fled into the waters, where, beneath the surface, she sadly drowned. The stories say that her spirit never left, and that if you look into the water at midnight, you can still see her beneath the
Why did King John chase after her?
surface. That's not the only strange story surrounding this pool, because nearby is where, in 1926, the most famous mystery author in the world, Agatha Christie, disappeared. Her car was found abandoned here at Newlands Corner, with the headlights still on, and there was no sign of her, leading some to worry she'd gone into the pool. The disappearance was a national sensation and sparked a nationwide manhunt with 1,000 police officers, 15,000 volunteers, and even aeroplanes involved. 11 days later, she was found alive in a hotel over 200 miles away in Harrogate, saying she had no memory of what had happened. To this day, no one knows if it was trauma, a publicity stunt, or something else entirely.
It's free to come here if you do want to visit.
She just needed a rest.
The pool's on a public footpath and there's a small cheap car park. The area isn't huge, it's really just the Silent Pool and the Sherborne Pond beside it, as well as the next door Silent Pool Gin Distillery. But it's a really calm place to walk and take in the pool and the surroundings. After all, you never know what you might see.
Like and follow for more stories from around the UK, and let me know in the comments where you think I should visit next.
To become a werewolf, often it was a criminal who would be running from townspeople or trying to get away, and he would meet what they call the dark man of the forest, dressed all in black, and he either has one cloven hoof instead of a foot, and he says, I can give you power to get away from these pursuers. And that power is to become a wolf or werewolf.
And most of them accept it, but they don't realize they're being cursed.
He gets their soul in return.
Was it an exchange soul to be a werewolf or wolf man?
Werewolf. Werewolves have control of when they change, whereas wolfman, it is a curse bestowed upon them that they do not want.
But they cannot control.
Right. And they go after the one that they love.
That's fucked up.
14,400 years ago, 5 people walked into a cave in what is now northern Italy along with their dog, and now archaeologists know what they used to light their way. All that's left is their footprints and finger marks on the wall, along with their knee prints, because this is some of the first evidence we have of humans crawling in the fossil record. The group included a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8 to 11-year-old, a teenager to early adult, and an adult. They traveled single file with the youngest in the back, and once they entered the cave, they then had to crawl through a section where we can tell that the adult paused for a bit because they were at the front, probably to make sure that they were heading in the right direction, and also maybe to check for the cave bears and wolves, which also use this cave system. They then proceeded through and were able to stand up eventually, and then they walked through a pond, reached the spot where they wanted, where it appears that the teenager and the children collected mud and then smeared it on the stalagmites, and then they turned around and went back. Now, the archaeologists did some experimental archaeology to tell how they could have lit their way and how they were able to travel 800 meters into this cave system on a journey of what was probably 2 hours. And what they figured is that they were able to use pine sticks. And these sticks were basically lit probably one at a time and were held by the second person in line and the last person. But the story isn't just about, oh, how did these 5 people walk into a cave? But as an archaeologist, it tells us so much more. It tells us that even young children at a time before farming was a thing were still important to a group. It's also evidence of a non-religious, non-subsistence activity. There's no reason for them to go into the cave. They're not going in here for food, they're not going in here for shelter, they're not going in here for any ritual activity, and it was probably a bit risky because, as I said, there were cave bears in this cave. You can see their track marks as well in the fossil record, and maybe that's why they brought the family dog around with them. The most likely scenario seems to be that these kids just wanted to explore the cave, and they probably needed an adult to go with them to make sure they were safe, and they had to take the dog as well, and so they went into the cave just for fun. And that is so human. It's so normal, just kids being kids and humans being human and doing something not for some big, massive purpose, just because they can walk 800 meters into a cave to go exploring. That's why they did it.
And there doesn't need to be any bigger reason.
So it's really a satanic ritual reenactment.
Want to see a creepy video of possibly a glitch in the Matrix? This was sent in by someone named Lisa. She said it's fine if I use her real name. And she said she got a camera alert from her front door camera at 5:29 in the morning. Says she did not review the footage until later in the day. She was sleeping when she got the notification. But also, when you see it, which you'll see it, notice the bottom right-hand corner of the video because there's some weird movement down there afterward. So here we go. It gradually gets lighter, but the initial notification was at 5:29 a.m. And you can see the camera sort of picks up the changing light as it gets more and more into the morning, I guess. But this video was about 40 seconds long. I cut off a bunch of it. Who is that? And now look at the bottom right. Interestingly enough, she says that the boy in the photo looks a lot like her son, but it's not her son. And later that day, they received an unexpected grocery delivery of things that she wouldn't normally buy her son. And they asked around the neighborhood, they checked their apps, they had not ordered it. She said the thing in the video in the bottom right-hand corner does look to her and her son like it's grocery bags. But if that's the case, they were in the video 8 hours before they were actually delivered. Her theory is interesting. She says that her son was actually a twin in utero, but that her son's twin actually passed. And when they went over this footage and they were talking about it, her son was laughing and saying, well, maybe my twin wanted me to have some snacks. Snacks that you wouldn't buy me, Mom. So let her know your thoughts. Twin. Interesting enough. And she'll be seeing the comments. She said it was fine if I used her real name. If you have a creepy video or you have something that you want more community eyes on, send that in too. We would love to see it.
The next ghost on our list is extremely dangerous and comes with a laundry list of trigger warnings. So if you're not into things like blood, gore, and true crime, this is probably not the video for you. But if you decide to stick around, let's go ahead and watch the video, which is about a minute long.
The Juggernaut was known in life as Horace Breaker Mahoney. Horace was born oversized and horribly disfigured, spending his childhood as an outcast. His mother abandoned him at an early age, and his father put him to work in the junkyard, where Horace's teenage years were spent alone, crushing and chopping up old cars. His father died, and with no parent to steer him, the 7-foot-tall giant snapped. His first kill was a pair of female hitchhikers. He drove them back to the junkyard and tore them apart with his bare hands, feeding the pieces to his dogs. Many more kills followed. His M.O. was towing stranded motorists back to the yard where he would meticulously break every bone in their bodies. But his luck ran out, as it always does, the night he picked up an undercover female cop. It took over a dozen men to subdue the immense giant, 3 of whom lost their lives when Horace broke free of his handcuffs. Poor Horace's struggle eventually ended when 5 officers pumped nearly 50 rounds of ammo into him, and then another clip into his lifeless corpse, just to be sure.
So the Juggernaut is the first ghost that we meet and the last ghost that's released, and he's the equivalent to a Pisces. And one of the things that I've noticed while doing this series is that all of the signs have something that's common to each one of them. For instance, all of the fire signs are marked by some sort of pride or some duel. The air signs are marked by them being bound, and then for our water signs, they're marked by mommy issues. So the Juggernaut is somebody who was abandoned by his mother at a very young age that left him to grow up with his father. The father saw his potential. He was a huge guy at 7 feet tall. So the Juggernaut is somebody who grew up with mommy issues right off the bat. His mom didn't want him. He grew up alienated by his classmates and peers. Then later on, his father passed, and this left him all alone. This drove him insane, and somehow in that time, he ended up getting a voracious appetite for unaliving people. Now, I'm not entirely sure where that stemmed from, but of the 12 zodiacs, him and the Jackal are both the only confirmed criminals and have the highest body counts. In all of the wrong ways. Now, what's interesting about the Jackal is unlike any other ghost that we meet, the Jackal has to have a bait to be lured out. This is something that we see at the very beginning of the 13 Ghost when Iris Kritikos goes to the junkyard and he's spraying blood all over in an attempt to lure the Juggernaut out. Now, this is something that he regrettably does because this results in the loss of a lot of life and a lot of his men. What's also unique about the Juggernaut is that he was shown to have superhuman abilities even in life. He was known to be extremely strong, and this earned him the nickname the Breaker. He He would later go on to use these insane talents to abuse and unalive other people. Now, much like the other ghosts in the film who have sounds to say,
this girl died about 90,000 years ago, but there's something strange and totally transformative to human history about her story. We know she existed from a single bone fragment found in this cave in Siberia in 2012. From the DNA, we know that her mom was a Neanderthal and her dad was from a completely new species uncovered at the time called Denisovan. Even wilder, her mom's DNA traces back to a population in Western Europe. That means that either she or her family members had been immigrants to the area, which was primarily Denisovan at the time. Now, this girl, Denny, she was at least 13 when she died. We know that from the bones. The first hybrid child discovered from two different human species. Separated and yet not quite. We actually found in her DNA that both her mom and her dad had other hybrid ancestors between the two species many thousands of years before. So clearly these groups were meeting, but how frequently is our question. Here's the part that I can't get out of my head though. What if she didn't die at 13? What if she kept on living and she had just lost this bone? The bone seemed perfectly healthy. There was no signs of trauma. At least with Neanderthals, we have evidence that they took very good care of their elderly and of sick people, that people in those communities could live for a very long time even after losing a bone. What do you think?
People always talk about strange things happening on Washington's Mountain Loop Highway, but have you heard this tale? Deep in the Cascades, tourists once flocked to a luxury wilderness hotel that would eventually go up in flames. Hey, I'm Lauren Donovan, and I cover Washington past and present, and this is Lost Washington, erased from the map, but not from history. Tucked about 25 miles outside of Granite Falls, near the now ghost town of Monte Cristo, stood the Big Four Inn. It was this massive 3-story wooden lodge. There was more than 50 rooms, and it was all built to cash in on tourists that were pouring into the Stillaguamish Valley areas seeking riches and recreation. There was this fancy railcar design to get visitors to and from it. They had a 9-hole golf course, tennis courts, and even an artificial lake for fishing. Newspapers in 1929 really hyped up its grand opening, romanticizing the snow-draped peaks and the proximity to stunning glaciers. And at one point, this place was considered one of the most famous resorts in all the Pacific Northwest. But over time, flood after flood took a toll on the rail line, and the tourism boom, it started to fade. After Pearl Harbor, the owners even offered the inn up as a potential shelter for up to 1,000 women and children if Seattle were bombed. That didn't happen, but this did. During World War II, the Coast Guard took over the place as a training camp and no one was allowed in. And so by the time the 1940s roll around, the Big Four Inn meets its end. An early morning fire spread through the entire lodge, and forest rangers who were there and saw it, they said no guests were inside, but the place went up in flames quickly.
The most disturbing serial killer in Korean history. September 19th, 1986, the body of 71-year-old Lee Hwan-im was discovered dead in a rice paddy. She was face down, her pants were nearly removed, and her arms were tied behind her back. And they determined that she had been strangled to death, and the police had no answers. With no evidence to guide them, the investigation stalled. And just as hope for answers was fading, another murder shocked the community. And this one was more brutal than the last. On October 23rd, just over a month later, another body appeared. Bak Hyun-suk, a 25-year-old housewife, was discovered naked in a farm waterway. Her body was bound up in her clothes, and she had been stabbed 4 times in the chest with what police believed was a sharp-pointed object, possibly a screwdriver. Hyun-suk had been assaulted and then strangled to death with her own stockings, which were fastened tightly around her neck. And fear continued to escalate in Hosung. Within a month, 2 women had been murdered and left exposed, and despite having 2 crime scenes to work with, investigators remained clueless about who could have done this. Then, like clockwork, the assailant struck again a month later, but this time, he failed. Late one night, he kidnapped an unnamed woman at knife point and dragged her into a nearby field. There, he assaulted her and demanded money. She told him her purse must have fallen during the attack and urged him to go look for it. He had tied her arms up, but she managed to break free while he searched. She then sprinted to the nearest house for help, screaming for her life. Nearby residents found her running half naked and quickly took her in, saving her from certain death. The man disappeared into the night before they were able to catch him, but she was able to recall her attacker's appearance, which allowed police to create a facial composite sketch.
Good.
He was a slender man in his 20s, standing about 5'5" or 5'7", with sharp features and short hair. And while this was a helpful lead, the description matched thousands of men in the region, which really left the police with no closer to catching this culprit.
A month later, it happened again. Another woman was found dead. On December 14th, 23-year-old office worker Lee Gye-suk was murdered on her way home from work. Her body was found in a rice paddy, and the scene matched the typical MO. She'd been bound with her blouse, her head covered with stockings, and she had been assaulted. Horrifically, he had penetrated her using an umbrella. The brutality of this
What?
crime stunned the community.
And over the course of 5 years, there were 10 women and girls who were brutally attacked in the small villages of Hwasong.
The
Wait, come on, man. Did he get caught or what?
newest female serial killer of South Korea. The one that netizens have said is too pretty to go to jail. 20-year-old Kim So-young. 20. And she's not a hard woman to find. In fact, she's not even hiding. Police arrest her at her house, and just 30 minutes before her arrest, she had just posted another selfie on Instagram. And in the motel footage, her face is out and about. It's not like she's wearing a mask and hiding, and then she's just on Instagram posting her face. And all of these selfies, she posts a lot of selfies on Instagram. She's always pouting at the camera while subtly but not subtly emphasizing her cleavage with the hashtag followers welcome, hashtag cool tongue beauty, follow for follow, mutual follow, likes, DM. They bring her in for questioning, and she innocently tells them, I didn't know they died. I didn't think it was that dangerous because I also take these meds myself. They're like, well, why would you give them meds that they're not prescribed? And she said that she was just drugging these men because she didn't like dealing with conflict. She's like, I'm so conflict adverse. I was just trying to put them to sleep. She's saying, they would spend hundreds of dollars buying me food, and I'm assuming that they want to do it afterwards. And I don't want to do it, so I would just put them to sleep. She's like, I just didn't want them to be like a nuisance and try to, initiate these intimate relations with me. So I would drug them. And I guess 2 of them just happened to die. The prosecutors released Kim So-young's name, age, and her mugshot photos. People went from defending her because she was the prettiest killer alive to now hating her because she's ugly in her mugshot.
Women in male-dominated fields.
Did you know that there is supposedly goblins in the state of Kentucky? Because I didn't know that. There is an entire story from the 50s about it. Like, where a family got terrorized in their home by these 3-foot-tall creatures. There are still reported sightings of them to this day in the state of Kentucky, and one of you guys sent me one that you believe is your own encounter with one of these goblins. So of course we're going to talk about that today. So it is around 2 in the morning, and Lee recalls being on FaceTime with a friend while they're working on a project. They hear something outside of their window that sounds like gravel or leaves crunching under feet, and they said they didn't really think anything of it because they're in Appalachia. There's bears, there's wildlife. But then it happens again, extremely close and extremely loud. And it makes them look up without even thinking about it because it's so jarring. And that is when they come face to face with something. This thing was crouched at first, and then it slowly stood up, although it still wasn't very tall. It was wearing some type of cloak with pointy ears sticking out. And to this day, they are convinced that that was one of the Kentucky goblins. What do you guys think? If you were in the state of Kentucky, for one, did you know about this? Because I didn't. And also, have you ever seen anything like it?
Fried chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Have you ever wondered what the worst way anyone has ever died in history is? Well, as you can tell by the picture, Mark Antonio Bragadin might just have that title. This is going to get gruesome. Between 1570 and 1571, the city of Famagusta in Cyprus was under siege by the Ottomans. But the Ottomans were too strong, and on the 1st of August 1571, Mark Antonio Bragadin and the Venetians surrendered to the Ottomans. He surrendered to the Ottomans, who were led by a general known as Lala Mustafa Pasha, probably butchered that name, and the terms of the surrender were that he was to get safe passage, but as soon as the city gate doors were open, he was taken captive, and his torture began. First, he was brutally beaten by the Ottoman soldiers. Then they cut his nose and ears off and imprisoned him. And then over the next 2 weeks, he was forced to carry heavy loads around the city of Famagusta as a form of humiliation. Also, he was pretty much starved as well for these 2 weeks. But then on the 17th of August, he was taken and tied to a column. The Ottoman soldiers then skinned him alive. Reports state that when he was being skinned alive, he was actually conscious while they were doing it for the first part, but he did eventually die from this horrendous process. It's also known as being flayed alive. They then took his skin and stuffed it and made it into a scarecrow type thing, and then placed it on a horse and paraded his skin, his dead body, around the city square. Now, years later, Venice officials are said to have gone to Cyprus and collected his remains, his skin, and they placed it here, back in Venice, the Basilica di Santi Giovanni di Paolo. I've probably butchered that name, but yeah, it's here in Venice. This is where his remains are said to have been put, and you can go and visit them. So, is this the worst death in history? Let me know in the comment section.
What he had done to deserve such treatment.
This is Yoshinori Asumi. You've probably never heard of him. In 2016, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for discovering something that will forever change the future of our health. What he discovered requires 0 medications. It can be done completely for free. What he discovered might be the key to fighting chronic diseases. He was awarded this prize in 2016, and his discovery was in the cells. He discovered that we can make ourselves get into a process of cleaning out and repairing damaged cells, healing our bodies on a cellular level without medications for free. It's called autophagy. He found that we can put our bodies in this state of autophagy, of healing, simply by refraining from food for a certain amount of time. On average, autophagy tends to start at about 16 hours of fasting.
He did not discover it. People had been fasting for health forever.
Let's talk about one of the creepiest moments in Mexican TV history, the Infarto haunting. In 2005, Azteca 13 would release one of its biggest and most popular prank shows ever, Infarto, aka Heart Attack, that would aim at scaring its victims so much that they'd get an infarto. And a lot of these pranks were actually really cruel in that they would put real people in really awful situations, like calling gardeners and setting them up to believe that they just found a dismembered body. People being pranked into believing that they're about to be subject to a cult sacrifice, and just straight up evil situations like that. However, beyond this specific episode, that the Infarto crew would experience one of the creepiest things in Mexican TV history, as they'd be setting up for a prank where the victim would enter an actually haunted restaurant with his friend and unfortunately witness a person unaliving themselves as a prank for some reason. But during the taping, the Infarto team would notice something odd. As the prank was slowly approaching, this would happen.
En la historia, la víctima debía encontrarse con el suicidio de un mesero. Pero el equipo de producción se topó con algo que nuestros ojos no vieron a simple vista. Nos encontramos con esto.
Sí, no, si hay algo aquí fuerte. No me asuste.
Strange humanoid face would appear between the pranky and the victim, but things would only get worse as they would keep filming, finish the prank, and then this would happen.
Sí, sí es. Sí, aguanta.
In the mirror?
Gaby. Mándame los paramédicos de volada. Gaby.
¿Estás bien, Gaby?
Sí, está bien, ¿no? ¿Ya se llevaron a la camioneta los niños? Ya. ¿Verdad? Está bien fría.
No, que sabes si se sacó de onda, güey.
Aquí hay algo bien fuerte, ¿eh?
Yeah, the humanoid figure would appear again, and then one of the crew members would get pushed to the ground, causing them to pass out, and the whole entire team to freak out and claim that something very heavy was in the room with them and cut the production of the episode. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of believe in the paranormal, so I'm kind of wondering if the ghost was getting revenge on the Infarto team for pulling such a cruel prank, or if this was staged. I don't know, but all I have to say is, I would never mess at an actually haunted location like that, especially staging an unaliving. But what do you guys think? Let me know.
There's a parasitic outbreak happening right now, sweeping across the United States. It's called cyclosporiasis.
Chosen ones, they have technology that can cause you to shit your pants. What this is, it's a built-up accumulation of these metal.
It's not funny, but it's funny.
Be careful with what I say. And basically, with these new flowers with a T that they're putting up everywhere, they are able to control, the individual who has the excess METALSs due to the MAGNETs, the effect that those flowers actually have on people. So we need to start doing the Master's Cleanse every morning, and we need to take a binder like bentonite clay after every meal. This is how we get rid of the excess metals, hopefully I can say that, whatever, that are basically stuck. So you don't have to deal with this, Scary Movie kind of told us about it a little bit. But anyways, learn the way, start detoxing, and get healthy, wealthy, and wise so that you don't become a victim at JacobsLink.com. There's a link in the bio for the Health Bible and Health Kit to help get you started instead.
Warning, a parasite is already spreading across 18 states and counting in the US, and you cannot see it or wash it away. It is hiding in your food, and the CDC does not know where it's coming from. People were terrified after the outbreak showed no signs of slowing down, with Michigan seeing over 170 cases explode in just 10 days. And the CDC confirming they still do not know which food is carrying it or how long it's been in our shelves. Haunting reports show the parasite infects the cells of your small intestine, causing your body to stop absorbing food, leading to weeks of explosive diarrhea, cramps, so bad people are being hospitalized, and weight loss exceeding 20 pounds, with the symptoms disappearing and then coming back even after you think it's over. But it gets much worse as the contaminated produce is being shipped through the national food supply from state to state, and for every person who gets diagnosed, experts believe dozens more are infected and have no idea. Doctors say if caught early, the parasite is fully treatable with a short course of antibiotics. The CDC is urging everyone with unexplained stomach issues lasting more than a few days to request a Cyclospora test by name.
First of all, you don't treat parasite with an antibiotic.
The recent study did come out and demonstrated that sunlight goes through the human body, completely through it. Amazing. And so, but what they found was not only does it go through it, it improved the vision of participants and rapidly improved their mitochondrial function within just minutes of fully clothed sun exposure. So it even goes through the clothes. So you want to go outside, you want to get the sun.
So there are some declassified documents. If you have not heard of Project Alkaline, Project Axolite, or Operation Tucana, you might want to look it up. When I was called crazy for saying that there were fake birds, I guess I wasn't so crazy after all. So they admit to using birds, both live pigeons and mechanical birds, to spy on us since the 60s. Great. I'm just wondering what is so important that they need to know everything us little people do. Like, don't they have better things to do?
Yep, they have been watching us and marking us since birth, and the man who just found out about this has disappeared, and he warned us this would happen. People were terrified after it came out that Daniel Schmidt, a student from the #1 economics program in the world, had gone viral claiming he had cracked the code, proving that we are all living inside a 300,000-year-old long experiment run by an advanced civilization. Haunting clips show him claiming that by taking your full name and your date of birth, you can calculate what he calls your metadata, a hidden code that reveals your exact purpose in life. And when he calculated his own, he claims that he started crying because it was so accurate, with millions now trying it and warning what they are finding is matching their lives perfectly. But it gets much darker as scientists published a study claiming that they found a signal of intelligence hidden inside human DNA, a code frozen into us for billions of years that they say could not have been made by nature. And a man who discovered DNA himself proposed that an ancient civilization may have put us here on purpose. And this is the exact same thing Daniel is claiming. However, what he calls metadata is actually something called numerology.
This is pretty terrifying. We're now finding out that alpha-gal isn't the only thing you need to worry about when it comes to ticks. There's something even more lethal. It's called the Powassan virus, and a tick can transmit it to your body within 15 minutes.
Whether it's hunting or fishing, John Regan is an avid outdoorsman. But this active, on-the-go, freshly retired man has been hospitalized for weeks after a tick bite.
And now it's like he's just from a tick, you know. And I've never even heard the word before until they came out with it, you know. And it's just tough seeing him in this position.
Regan was diagnosed with Powassan virus, which is spread to people by the bite of an infected tick.
And just like alpha-gal, this virus has also been flying under the radar as it slowly takes lives across the U.S.
A local family is warning people that a tick about the size of the mark from this pen tip could change your life forever. Kevin Boyce didn't know he got bit, but his life took a tragic turn around this time last year. He spent 24 days in the hospital with flu-like symptoms that ultimately led to brain damage.
It was horrifying, but we knew what Kevin would want, so, you know, we just had to let him go.
His sister says it was Powassan virus, a rare but dangerous disease that's carried by the black-legged tick, which also transmits Lyme disease. Local environmental experts say that tick populations have been on the rise over the last several decades in Massachusetts because more of them are surviving milder winters.
And that's the scariest part about this tick invasion. When you release so many deadly, almost invisible creatures into the environment, ticks, they can spread all sorts of scary diseases. And this isn't stopping with the US either. People are reporting more ticks in Ireland. And a lot of Canadians are also saying the ticks this year are on a whole other level.
I hope they don't come to Indonesia. Oops.
Guess what? I came back from a nice peaceful walk and noticed lots of tiny crawlies all over my pants. Yay! At first I thought, what in the prairie wilderness is this? I am full of ticks. And not just one or two, but 47 in total. Yikes!
But then again, this shouldn't be surprising, since we knew they were sending ticks to Canada.
So this forum post, and I'm going to put it directly on the screen, and I'm going to read it word for word. It says this, quote, I work for a private charter company in Ontario, Canada. The company handles booking and chartering flights across Ontario mainly. We are paid to spread ticks by air. It happens twice a year, early spring and early fall. This year, we've been hired to do it earlier. The company receives the ticks in boxes. Each box contains millions of ticks. The aircraft used are generally single or dual prop aircraft, single pilot, and one other passenger that handles the dispersal.
Why?
It pays a lot, and I mean a lot. Generally, the ticks are dispersed in several specific regions in Ontario, and it's always the same regions each and every year, thus far. Last spring, the ticks dispersed were mostly American dog ticks. This year, they are all deer ticks, supposedly specifically bred to withstand cold temperatures, end quote. So that post was from March 16th, 2 weeks before Snopes said that this story originated. All right. And it's pretty interesting. Here we have a whistleblower saying that they are paid to disperse ticks across Canada. Now, this sounds eerily familiar to what we're hearing about these boxes of ticks that are being found. And it begs the question, was this person telling the truth?
Man, BG needs to be in prison. By the way, rest in peace, Kevin. All right, folks. Thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, likes, and hit that bell notifications. You won't miss my next video. Have an awesome day and always, God bless.